The title of my teaching unit is called Family is Where the Heart Is. All the lessons are going to be on a 4th grade level. The painting that I chose to do my artwork, the lesson plans from, is called Sandia or Watermelon by Carmen Lomas Garza. The painting was created in 1986. For my social studies and art history lesson, I decided to start by giving the students a background on Mexican American culture. There's a strong family and cultural experience. The mother is the heart of the family and known as the caretaker. The father makes all the decisions for the family. Carmen Lomas Garza was born in Kingsville, Texas in 1948, and she paints and writes about the lives of Mexican Americans based on her experiences in Texas and California. She uses her paintings as a way to combat racism. So the standard that I chose for this lesson is use the basic economic concepts of trade, opportunity cost, specialization, voluntary exchange, productivity, and price incentives to illustrate historical events. So I chose to do the substandard of that and do substandard B, which is explain how price incentives affect people's behavior and choices, decision about what crops to grow and products to produce. So in the painting, they are eating watermelon as a family on the front porch, probably a summertime night, and I thought that the students could understand what types of items were traded and what crops that farmers in this region grew. So at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to understand trade and productivity and what crops to grow, and they'll be able to create a map with major trade routes in Texas and California during 1986. I will start the lesson by pointing out each image and the focus point of the image, and then I will move on to Mexican American family culture and talk about trade and the productivity for crops. At the end of the assessments, the students will be able to create a map and create a worksheet on opportunity cost, productivity, and things like that. For my last lesson, for the science and the art project, for the science standard, I chose students will model the position and motion of the Earth in the solar system and will explain the role of relative position and motion in determining sequence of the phases of the moon. I chose this because, as you can see in the painting, there's an image of the moon. It's a crescent moon, so that's one phase of the moon. So we will do a lesson based on the moon. For the visual art standard is to formulate personal responses to visual imagery, use a sketchbook for planning and self-reflection. So they can see how this painting makes them feel because it's family and they're all centered together. So they will, for their science objective, they have to understand the phases of the moon. For their visual arts objective, they will be creating their own families. So for their science project, or their art project, I should say, it's their art project, they will be able to create their own families on a piece of paper using different materials such as colored pencils, crayons, or markers, and they will be able to evoke an emotional response when looking at one painting to determine how their own painting will be. So for my language arts lesson, I decided that I will start the painting by asking the 3 aesthetic questions. I will then go and focus on the focus point of the painting, which to me was the family, but to another student it could be something else. So the standard that I chose to do with the students is to write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. The students will be able to look at the painting, each student will get a copy of the painting and be able to create a story or a narrative about the characters in the painting. It could be anything that they want it to be. But there will be heavy emphasis put on dialogue and details because to have a great story, you need great detail to support what you're trying to say. The students will start the assessment by filling out a graphic organizer that develops the characters in the painting that they want to have. And then to assess them, I will have a rubric that hits all the requirements to be able to write a good narrative, including dialogue and detail. For the math lesson, I will introduce the painting in the discussion and draw attention to the house that's in the painting. After I introduce the painting, the students will answer the following questions, such as, what do you see in the painting? What do you think the artist is trying to say with this painting? What do you think the story is? What is your favorite shape in the painting? And what is the main focus of the painting? So the math standard that I chose was to classify two-dimensional figures based on the presence or absence of parallel or perpendicular lines or the presence or absence of angles in a specific size. The students have to recognize right triangles as a category and identify right triangles. So the objectives would be that the student would be able to identify right angles and parallel and perpendicular lines. So each student will get a copy of the painting. They will be given a ruler and they will have to identify the shapes and angles in the painting with their partner. They will then measure the lines and angles of the shapes, drawing special attention to the windows, the columns, and the roof of the house, and the cement front porch where the family is sitting. At the end of the lesson, the students will create a worksheet with questions such as how many right angles do you see in the painting, or how many perpendicular and parallel lines do you see and where are they located. The students will then draw their own houses and be able to point out in their own houses where right triangles are and parallel and perpendicular lines are.